Welcome back to the show, and I'm joined right now by Kinnie Starr. You were the executive producer of a brand new documentary called Play Your Gender. We're going to be looking at the gender gap in the music industry. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're no stranger to BC and the culture here when it comes to music and facing adversity. This new documentary, so you're the host of it, and you go through talking to various people who've been through all kinds of different facets in the music industry, men and women. But the big question here is the disparity between men and women in the industry. Not so much, you know, in front of the spotlight, but behind the scenes. Because I think of artists like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Madonna, and obviously, I mean, they are huge stars, but it's more women behind the scenes where we're seeing not as many numbers, right?
Exactly.
So let's talk about that a bit.
Well, I think a lot of people have a misconception about the music industry because there are so many bankable female stars, and especially in pop culture. So a lot of times when the conversation around gender inequity comes up, people will just say, well, what about Sarah McLachlan? And then that's like the end of their analysis. Or what about Beyonce? So I wanted to go deeper with this movie and really look at the behind the scenes culture, because I think it's like in production and technology, authorship, engineering and stuff, that's where you really get to become intimate with the material and intimate with the song itself. And because music is so far reaching and it's such a big part of what we consume, like everybody consumes music almost. So it's important that the music is cultivated from the ground up by women more. Like less than 5% of producers worldwide are women, and that's astounding.
Yeah, that's staggering. And there has never been a female producer that has won a Grammy, right?
Exactly.
There's only been a handful that have even been nominated in the 40 plus years.
Exactly, and that's just really disproportionate. And like a producer takes, excuse me, a producer shapes something from the ground up. So if you imagine no women being involved in that role, or very few women, then you can understand why it's an important, and it's more important to see more women doing that, because otherwise it's like the women are sort of like the icing on top, but everybody else is controlling what's going on behind the scenes, and those are all guys.
And there's so many facets, like you mentioned, in terms of the engineering, the producing, to create that sound. You know, how much manufacturing is there today still with that sort of iconic female pop star? And how much does that sort of waver from who that person may actually be when they start out? Is there a lot of like sort of, do they have to sort of compromise themselves to sort of get noticed now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the function of the internet has made people be able to build themselves in a different way. Like we used to have to, I've been in the entertainment industry for 20 years, and there was no Instagram and Twitter and stuff back then. So you kind of had to be able to practice like thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. You had to be able to step on stage and play your instruments and sing in a manner that was going to strike everyone. Now you can come out the gate primarily with your brand well before your musicianship is established. And I think that's both a disservice to the artist and the audience, as well as a service, because you see a lot of people being able to, you know, raise their notoriety through internet popularity. But then in the end, it's like, well, you have to wonder, well, maybe they're missing out on some of that beautiful creativity, the thing of just working on the product. Right? Rather than just putting up all the pretty pictures all day, every day, right? Like,
and we see that more and more, And you're a seasoned veteran in the industry now. Did you struggle with hardships personally, sort of getting noticed, you know, a couple of decades ago? And what was it like for you making that uphill battle?
Well, I have to say that I've been very fortunate in the music industry. I came out of a visual arts background, so I already really understood art and art making when I started working on songs. So I brought like my visual ideas into songwriting, and I think as a result, when I started working on songs, they were quite well arranged and well formed already. And so I had a very fortuitous and interesting entry, and I was signed to Mercury Island Def Jam within like 3 years of playing professionally. So I mean, I've had my battles. Like, I'm lonely as a musician. When I first started, there was barely any other female MCs. There's way more women now, like in DJ culture, but it's still very presentational, like girls in bikinis and like booty shorts and stuff like that. And I've never really been super comfortable with having to adhere to those expectations of like, you're a woman, so you need to shake your butt more. Like, so I've had a lot of, I would say, internal struggle with myself of like trying to figure out how to fit in, how to be an extrovert, how to be super competitive. But I'm not really that way. And so for me, that's my own journey, and that's like what I struggle with as an artist. I try and write about what's important to me while trying to understand popular culture. And
Sarah from Tegan and Sarah is featured prominently in the documentary Play Your Gender, of course, which is part of the Reel to Reel Film Festival going on until the weekend. And I'll just close with this. She sort of says, you know, it's up to the women as well to be tough and not be passive about this. So what advice can you pass along to girls, not necessarily that want to get on stage and perform, but maybe that are into sound engineering or producing, that want to get into, you know, behind the scenes roles?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I just can't emphasize enough that like women get squeezed out of technology because men are socialized to be more adept and confident with software and stuff like that. It's changing, obviously, because we've all had access to software for over a decade now, but I really can't stress enough that how much fun it is to produce, how much enjoyment you get from it, how liberating, how much self-esteem you build when you try and take control of the product from the ground up. Which isn't to say that anything is made without a team. Everything is made with a team, but I really think that women, we don't understand. We're trained to think, oh, you should be pretty, so you should be a singer. And it's like, no, it's not like that. Like, you can be everything, and it's fun. Like,
that's the bottom line.
It's fun.
So find your passion and your skills and hone that, right?
Yeah, and just try and stay confident with it. And it's hard to often just be one of a couple of women in like a label or a studio, but that's the only way to change things. Well, it's an eye-opening documentary. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us. Thanks for having me. Yeah, and you can check out Play Your Gender right now, going on as part of the Reel to Reel Film Festival on until the weekend. Kinnie, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. All right, stick around.